Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. The senators and all in attendance will please stand and be led in the invocation by the Honorable Adam P. Eben, 30th Senatorial District. Following the invocation, all will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Mr. Michael Adams, Director of Human Resources, Virginia Senate Clerk's Office.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Holy One of Blessing, we know you by many names: Adonai, Allah, Jesus, Brahma the Creator, Vishnu the Preserver, and Shiva the Destroyer. Some find you in the wisdom of the Buddha or in Shintoism. Others draw from every tradition or find inspiration simply by reaching for the highest good. Every wisdom path leads up the mountain inspired by common values. Every human being is called toward becoming our highest selves. The world is not perfected, it is ours to perfect. Ours are the hands who must support the fallen, who must help heal the sick, who must work to create compromise. We are in the midst of the holiest days on the Jewish calendar, the days that include Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Let the universal themes of these days guide us now. Let us be awoken from our torpor by the sound of the shofar blast, the resounding ram's horn that urges us to refocus on that which is most important in our lives and in the lives of those who we serve. Let us atone for the error of our ways and pledge to move forward with a renewed sense of determination to pursue a more fair and just society for all. And together, let us say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, September 16th, 2020.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 3.
Ayes 31, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For what purpose does the senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike, rise?
Mr. President, I just have the journal reflect that the senator from Accomack is away from the Capitol on pressing personal business.
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas. Okay. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let the journal reflect that the senior senator from Virginia Beach is out on pressing personal business.
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the journal can reflect the senator from Fauquier is away on pressing personal business.
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, could the journal reflect that the senator from Washington County is away on pressing personal business?
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Is there any other business to come before the Senate in the morning hour? Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Okay, for the senators, just to update everyone, we had a little bit of a technical glitch, so we have to retake 2 votes. So Senator Morrissey is moving once again that the reading of the journal be waived. Do you want to start with roll call? All right, we're going to start with roll call. So if everyone's ready, all those present will please record their vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, the noes picked up 1, 4.
Ayes 30, noes 4. The reading of the journal is waived.
Okay, we're going to have to be at ease. They're not getting anything.
Okay, it's not safe. Okay. All right, the Senate will temporarily be at ease.
See? It won't be short today. So close.
You said it. You said it.
And no, we're not there.
It's all Erica's fault.
Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Is there any other business to come before the Senate in the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, September 24th, 2020. Uncontested calendar, House bills on second reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all House bills on second reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, that's pages 1 through 5, House Bill 5041 through 5106, that the rules be suspended, the second constitutional reading be dispensed with.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 1 through 5, House Bill 5041 through House Bill 5106, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 0.
Ayes 35, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that those bills go by for the day.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Regular calendar, House bills on second reading. House. Okay, never mind. Regular calendar, House Joint Resolution on second reading. House Joint Resolution 5010, confirming various appointments by the Speaker of the House of Delegates. Commending resolutions. Senate Resolution 542, commending Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Sinyon Vindman, United States Army, retired.
Senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Mr. President, can that go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Resolution 542 will go by for the day. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Thank the Senator. Thank you, Madam Clerk. For what purpose is Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, on Friday we lost a hero, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who fought her life fighting for equality. She faced many challenges because she was a woman in a time when women didn't have power. At law school, finding work as a young attorney, and as a law professor, well, she fought for other women and men to have equal pay. Justice Ginsburg is a role model for me as a mother and as a policymaker to urge me to continue pushing for change and to ask for more. For our daughters who have been able to benefit from the many policies that Justice Ginsburg championed. Her passing compels us to answer the call to action for all of us who care about equality and equal rights. Last year, we ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, and most everybody in this room voted for that. This next session, we have the opportunity to show women and minorities that our support is real for more than just words, that we believe that all people are equal and deserving of equal pay. Women in Virginia make 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Latina workers earn just 53% of what a white man makes in a year. And black women They have annual salaries of 61 cents per dollar for what a white man makes. Justice Ginsburg taught us we will keep standing up for equality and economic justice. And I ask, Mr. President, in gratitude and respect for the life and work of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that we adjourn today in her honor and memory. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, the senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain, rise?
Mr. President, brief point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, we are entering, and I guess have entered, the election season. And thankfully, we're not on the ballot this year. I, for one, am grateful for that. You know, we all depend upon public confidence in the integrity of our system. And sometimes that confidence is undermined by intentional acts by people who would pursue their own objects, sometimes just by negligence, sometimes just by problems with our systems. And I learned today, I have a friend who lives in the city of Richmond, a Republican, I will tell you, who applied for an absentee ballot. And yesterday, he received not one, but 2 absentee ballots by mail. I have made a couple of inquiries and have learned that in the city of Richmond, there are somewhere in the neighborhood of, at least that they know of right now, about 300 folks who received 2 absentee ballots. I also have learned that in Henrico and in Fairfax County, they have been sending duplicate absentee ballots out to applicants. And this is not a Republican issue. This should not be a Democrat issue. This should be an integrity issue. We have a vested interest in fair elections and making sure that this system works as it should. Everybody's entitled to 1 vote. If my Republican friend in the city of Richmond were able to cast 2 votes, that means that others' votes count less. He gets 2 votes, they get 1. That's just anathema to our system of fair elections. So I hope that we will all be vigilant in watching the conduct of this election season. When we see problems, whether they are problems that are calculated to benefit one side or another, I would hope that we would call them out and continue to seek integrity in our system of elections. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I want to begin by affirming what my colleague from Northwest Fairfax said about Justice Ginsburg and her role in the American history of American jurisprudence. And I want to use that to sort of pivot to my next point. I remember as a young lad standing on the side of Old Lee Highway. It was the fall of 1981, and watching a school bus go down the road, and it was the Fairfax High School girls field hockey team, which had won the Northern Region and was going down to Richmond to play in the state tournament. And I remember waving and holding up signs for many of these teenage girls who are now probably grandmothers. And it was a big moment in the history of our town. 5 years later, I was a senior at Fairfax High School. I remember running onto the field the night of our homecoming game, my parents standing at midfield to shake my hand. I was a 160-pound offensive lineman. I think probably a couple other folks can relate to that. And it was a big moment in my life. I was 17 years old, and I will never forget that moment. It was something I'll always cherish till the day I die. I say that, ladies and gentlemen, because our children right now are not receiving these moments, and that is a problem. As you know, we're in fall. The school has started. Athletics have started around the United States. Our athletes are not on the scholastic playing fields. Now, there was a decision made 2 months ago by the Virginia High School League, otherwise it used to be known as the Virginia High School Sports League, to not have fall athletics. And that, I believe, was done in good faith based on the best information that they had. I have talked with members, including members within this body, who may not have agreed with that. I know I was, as a parent of a high school football player, was not happy with that decision, but It was the decision that they made, and I was prepared to abide by it. I will note now that 40 states have made the decision to go forward with fall athletics. Just last week, Colorado, Delaware, Michigan, and Minnesota have decided to go forward with fall sports. We have decided not to go forward. We have stayed on the sidelines, and the idea is that we'll push all the other seasons back. Well, let me tell you, as someone that played multiple sports in high school, and my son plays multiple sports, my wife was a field hockey coach, my 2 older daughters played field hockey, seasons matter. And what we're trying to do now is not going to work. It's going to be dysfunctional, and it's going to be to the penalty of our young people. One of the things I've learned in public service is sometimes you got to step back and reconsider a decision you've made. And if I could give myself one piece of advice as a young person getting into politics 20 years ago is don't always be overly confident in your own decisions. Sometimes you can step back and realize, you know what? I have better information than I had 2 months ago. I believe it's incumbent on VHSL to re-examine this issue. I do believe there's time to still have a fall season. It will be a short season, but it will be a fall season. I do believe our athletes have worked hard. My son has worked hard to be in a position to play linebacker for Fairfax High School. He deserves that chance. It's not going to be the same in the spring. There are other sports going on. I do believe our athletes, whether they play cross country, field hockey, cheer, football, they deserve a chance. So I'm simply asking that VHSL take a second look. I've authored a letter, which I'm prepared to give to VHSL, just saying, please take a second look at this before you decide to close out the fall season. If anybody wants to sign on to that letter, please let me know. I would love to have Democrats, Republicans, independents, doesn't matter. It's about giving kids a chance. Because I'll never forget the moment when I ran onto that field. And when my father passed years later, I still remember the handshake he gave me at midfield. It let me know that as a 17-year-old, I had come up in his eyes. I'll never forget that. Let our own children have that chance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do think more needs to be said about our friend and our Justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was such an icon in our country, such an advocate for equality, with brilliance and grit. She advocated for each of us, not just women, but for men as well. If you look at some of her court cases, and she argued as a member of the ACLU, she was in charge of the women's unit, but it was the women's equality unit. And she took cases that I believe helped men as much as they helped women, and we should recognize that. In the Durham versus Missouri case, the court found that Jackson County, Missouri's practice of automatically exempting women from jury duty actually violated the 6th and the 14th Amendment. This was a case before the United States Supreme Court. Califano versus Goldfarb. Califano was Secretary of Health and Human Services at the time. And the United States Supreme Court found that the gender-based requirements for survivors' benefits in the Social Security Act violated the Due Process Clause of the Fifth Amendment. In Edwards versus Healy, the court remanded the case, but the issue again involved women serving on juries. Weinberger versus Weisenfeld, the court found that gender-based distinction in Social Security benefits violated due process again. The cases go on. She looked at our code and found real-life situations where people were being harmed because our Constitution didn't live. And she went before the United States Supreme Court to make an argument that if, in fact, we are a constitutional democracy, then we have to make these laws work for everybody. That is something we need to admire and respect and emulate. And we should note that when she was on the Supreme Court, she actually did write the decision allowing women to attend VMI. Again, she argued that on the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. And she, of course, delivered many moving dissents, including a dissent in the Voting Rights Act of Shelby County versus Holder. And she also argued on pay equity with the Ledbetter versus a Goodyear Tire Company case. I think this is something that should be admired. Justice Ginsburg was nominated by President Clinton, confirmed by the United States Senate in a vote of 97-3. And surprisingly, her strongest advocate was the United States Republican senator from Utah, Senator Orrin Hatch. Clearly, what she stood for crossed the divide, crossed the political divide, crossed many personal divides. It was her fervent wish, and as she was taking her last breath, that her successor be nominated by the next president. I pray every day that the institutions she fought so hard to make work for us, for the Constitution that she embraced and made us feel a part of and allowed us to get a little closer to equality in a more perfect union, those institutions that she trusted, I pray every day that the United States Senate can find it within themselves to allow this election to happen before the next Supreme Court justice is confirmed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
Point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we as a nation did lose a towering figure in the death of Justice Ginsburg. Though I disagreed with most of her opinions, what I really appreciated about this wonderful woman was that actually one of her best friends on the court was Antonin Scalia. They were diametrically opposed. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. They were diametrically opposed in many of their opinions, but at the same time, when they left the court, they went to dinner together, they went to the opera together, they truly enjoyed each other's company. And while we will miss Justice Ginsburg, I hope that we, as a body, the Senate of Virginia, will look to her as an example of how we need to work with each other in this body. Each of us is precious and each of us is dear. So let's look at Justice Ginsburg. Let's look at Justice Scalia. Let's see how they came together, even though they disagreed most of the time on the bench. I hope that we'll take that and make that our example. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi, rise?
Rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this past weekend I had the opportunity to attend 2 vigils for Justice Ginsburg, one at the footsteps of the Supreme Court on Saturday night and one here in the city of Richmond. At the Supreme Court on Saturday, there were at least 4,000 to 6,000 individuals there collected to grieve for the loss of our justice and also to pay tribute to her extraordinary work and her remarkable life. On Sunday night here in Richmond, another group of about 200 to 300 individuals gathered to grieve. And I asked myself, why is it that this particular justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is provoking such a depth of grief, such a sense of loss among so many in our community? And while we pay tribute to the amazing individual that she was and all that she contributed to our country, I think our depth of grief is heightened by all of the anxieties that we feel about our democracy. She protected our democracy. She also extended our democracy. She spoke for those who could not speak. She made sure that the rights of minorities, particularly women, and especially individuals of the LGBT community and minorities of different classes, found a representative in the halls of the Supreme Court. She spoke and spoke for us. On Saturday night, in the front of the Supreme Court, speaker after speaker spoke of their sense of loss, but they did not end there. Every speech ended with a call to action. We have an obligation to continue the work of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Up until her very final moments, she continued to work for us, for our country. We have the responsibility now to carry forth that work and to make sure that she is remembered through our actions and through our collective efforts for justice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, the senator from James City County, Senator Norman Rise.
I thank you, Mr. President. Rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have great respect and appreciate the eloquence of my colleagues who have been extolling the incredible career of Justice Ginsburg, whether it was as a jurist, as an attorney, but more important, just as a human being. It was mentioned that she wrote the majority opinion that resulted in the assimilation of women at Virginia Military Institute. I have some familiarity with that. And one of the things that I was reminded of, because I was not in the majority of some of those opinions that were being exchanged at the time, is that quality leadership is gender blind. And I am very pleased to share with you a couple of points. Just in the past 2 weeks, the entering class has come to VMI, and in some institutions they refer to them as freshmen. After they matriculated VMI, they are affectionately referred to as rats. And I am pleased to share with you that in that incoming class were more than 220 young ladies, a very significant contingency that is coming in. And I think it is a true comment about leadership and the quality of leadership. And the young ladies that have come through VMI have accomplished some incredible things that I won't articulate today. And I'm sure in that 220 women that came in just a couple of weeks ago, that there may be another Ruth Bader Ginsburg in that group. But what I would share with you, VMI is all about leadership, and we have what's referred to as a center of leadership there. And recently there was some publicity about the Vice President of the United States who appeared there. And I would say that these invitations to individuals of that public statute are usually extended a year and a half or 2 years out. And even though circumstances and atmospheric conditions may change, that the Institute remains true to the invitations that they extend. But here is a factoid you may not know, Mr. President, is every year VMI extends an invitation to a distinguished individual to come and address the Corps of Cadets. President Bill Clinton has been there. More recently, a gentleman by the name of Congressman John Lewis came and spoke to the Corps of Cadets. And interestingly enough, probably the most popular speaker that has come to address the VMI Corps Cadets on leadership was Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I suggest to you, Mr. President, just another little incremental part of history.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Well, while we're on the topic of of Justice Ginsburg. I don't know how many of you had a chance to read an article that appeared in the Washington Post written by a columnist. I've sent it to some of the people. Strangely enough, it was an article comparing Dwight Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, with Ruth Ginsburg. And they mentioned, mentioned a couple of just things that one of them said. We've come a long, quote, we've come a long ways in recognizing the equality of women. Unfortunately, in some respects, it's not yet complete, but I firmly believe it will be soon. And they said, I steadfastly favor the principle that women workers should have equal rights with men. I sincerely hope that this equality can be accomplished without delay. And finally, the other thing said by the individual was, a people that value its privileges above its principles soon lose both. That wasn't said by Justice Ginsburg, that was said by Dwight Eisenhower back in the 1950s. And you couldn't pick two people from a more diverse background. One born in Brooklyn, Ivy League graduate, scholarly person. The other born in middle of America, I think it was Kansas, graduate of the U.S. Military Academy, 5-star general, president. And the point is this, if those two people from those diverse backgrounds could get along and see things pretty much along the same lines, not totally, and I'm sure there are areas where they disagreed, there's no reason why the 40 of us here and that crowd down at the other end, wherever they are, there's no reason why we all can't get along. We're not really that far apart. We all want the same goals. It's a matter of how we get there, but we can't get there when we're fighting personally with each other. And as pointed out by Senator Cosgrove, Scalia was not, Justice Scalia was not her closest friend on the court. He was her closest friend in personal life, period. They even vacationed, the families vacationed together. And they joked a lot about each other. One time he pointed out that when they were, I think they may have been in India, they were on an elephant, and he pointed out that he was sitting in front of her. And she fired back, well, that's the reason, she says, I believe they were talking about weight distribution. So, you know, when people like that can get along, come from different backgrounds, there's no reason why public life in America amongst elected officials all across this country shouldn't be the same. And it's something to think about. And Senator Cosgrove, thanks for bringing that up. The other thing, you know, we had a comment about the absentee ballots, and there's probably been some mistakes, but I don't know what the big deal is. In Chicago, they vote dead people. Anyway, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all for your patience.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Thursday, September the 24th, the Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet 15 minutes upon adjournment in the Science Museum. The public can access the live stream on the General Assembly website. Tomorrow, Friday, September the 25th, the Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 11 a.m. in the Science Museum. The public can access the live stream on the General Assembly website.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of inquiry.
Senator, has the floor.
And I ask this out of innocence and not out of provocation. Mr. President, my question is to the senior senator from Fairfax or anyone who would like to throw him a life preserver. Do we have any preliminary anticipation about what the schedule is going to look like next week? Earlier in the morning, I suggested that it would be a little more comforting, and at my advanced age, I would sleep better on Sunday night if I had some anticipation of maybe what the following week was going to look like. And if we have not been able to nail that down just yet, is there any possibility of perhaps on tomorrow adopting a resolution that would lay it out with some particularity?
Thanks, Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I would say to the senator from James City County that probably tomorrow we'll have a better idea, at least short term, for next week. I'm pretty positive it won't be Monday. But anyway, you'll be involved in the decision-making process, okay? And we can probably reach, have a better idea tomorrow, particularly after Senate Finance meets, today. And with respect to a resolution, it's part of it is, not having a joint resolution makes it a little more difficult to have a schedule when you don't know totally what's going on down the hall. I did get a phone call from the speaker. I will return that phone call later. Maybe you have a better idea by tomorrow whether we can whether we could put together a formal resolution and stick to it. That's a little iffy, but we can talk about it, tomorrow. I hope that's the best I can do for you. But we will know, at least with respect to next week.
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman genuinely.
Thank the senator. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, I call on the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslow.
Yeah, I would ask the Senator Howe. I would assume she's busy. I would assume Senate Finance is going to meet within a few minutes after adjournment today. Here, you want to make an announcement?
Madam Clerk, okay. Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
15 minutes after adjournment.
15 minutes.
The announcement is that Senate Finance and Appropriations will be meeting 15 minutes after adjournment, as was previously announced by the clerk.
For the third time.
Thank the senator. Seeing no further business, I call on the senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 1 o'clock tomorrow. PM.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 1 p.m. tomorrow, and that when we do so in the honor and memory of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 1 p.m. tomorrow in the honor and memory of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.